Although the iPhone 5S was announced all the way back in 2013, it was recently confirmed to receive support for iOS 12, adding yet another year to its lifespan. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91Tech, and today we're going to be redoing a review I did earlier this year, considering the information we now have. Is the iPhone 5S actually still worth buying in 2018? Again, it wasn't that long ago that I did a video on the 5S, but at the time we didn't know whether or not it would get iOS 12, which made it really difficult to give a verdict on whether or not it could be worth it. But now we know, so I figure we should go over things again. Before we do that, make sure you go follow me on Instagram and Twitter, links below, and with that out of the way, let's just get started here. While the iPhone 5S is 5 years old, it certainly doesn't look it, with the same design of the iPhone SE. It still has a very durable aluminum body and features first generation Touch ID, a much welcome inclusion. The phone looks great, and next to the SE isn't too much out of place in 2018, so I really have no complaints there. The phone is a bit small with only a 4-inch display, but if you don't mind or even prefer a small phone, then you'll be good. It does have Apple's Retina display with a resolution of 640 by 1136 and pixel density of 326 pixels per inch, so all content will look very clean and crisp, perfectly acceptable by 2018 standards. What might not be acceptable for 2018 is the battery, which is only sized at 1560 mAh. Battery life is going to vary device to device, but it's fair to say with moderate to heavy use, you probably will need to recharge it during the day. However, if you just use your phone lightly or you get one with a decent battery, you should be fine. The camera is something that doesn't quite hold up in 2018, but is still decent enough to get you by. It has an 8 megapixel rear shooter with 1080p video. Pictures look okay, not amazing, but for most it'll be fine. The selfie camera, on the other hand, is pretty brutal with only 1.2 megapixels and 720p video. But, I mean, that shouldn't be a huge deal unless you're, I guess, really into high quality selfies. It's fine for FaceTime and Snapchat, but again, if you really need a good front facing camera, then you're gonna have to go for the Success or better. Overall, the camera is acceptable. It's nothing impressive, but it isn't bad enough to be worth condemning, so while I wouldn't call it a selling point for the phone, it isn't really a reason not to get it either. And now I'll quickly show a few sample shots so you can see for yourself. This right now is being filmed on the iPhone 5S in 1080p, and it looks actually pretty decent, definitely workable in 2018. And now we're getting pretty close to what I really want to talk about. The iPhone 5S holds Apple's A7 chipset with 1GB of RAM, and the performance isn't great on iOS 11. It can feel sluggish, and it just doesn't perform like a premium iPhone. And I mean, it isn't anymore. It's a budget option, and so we need to look at it as a budget option. iOS 11 is honestly fine on the 5S. Battery life isn't great, there is definitely lag, but overall it is pretty usable. But what's crazy is that the 5S is getting a whole extra year of support with iOS 12, its 6th iteration of iOS. This is going to be the selling point for this phone, the guarantee that you have at least another year before it's obsolete. iOS 13 next year is technically a possibility for the 5S, but I would say it's extremely unlikely and shouldn't be expected. But even so, that's still not going to happen until the end of 2019. So what does this all mean? Well, the iPhone 5S is going to get all of Apple's new features with iOS 12. It's going to retain all current support from the App Store, which is great. Not that it can run everything like Fortnite, but generally you should be able to download and install almost any app. But all this doesn't mean much if iOS 12 is brutally slow on the 5S. That, in fact, would make it unusable, right? Well, luckily iOS 12 is actually great on the 5S, and if anything, is actually faster than iOS 11. At the time of making this video, iOS 12 is in beta right now, but I've been using it a lot since it came out, and I'm honestly really impressed. The 5S actually feels somewhat smooth, certainly more so than it did with iOS 11. This means the 5S will be absolutely usable for another whole year, and this starts to even sound better when you consider the price tag. Going over to eBay.com, the 5S seems to sell as low as $50 and about as high as $100, and this is all US dollars, by the way. The average price seems to hover around $60 to $70, which is extremely reasonable, to the point that I honestly have to say the 5S is completely worth buying right now. Keep in mind that it is still going to be slow. It's better on iOS 12, but still isn't going to offer the performance of the SE. However, it'll be able to handle almost anything you throw at it, and getting through daily life really shouldn't be an issue, which means I actually recommend buying the iPhone 5S who really need a cheap budget iPhone right now. The fact that the price has gone gone down since earlier this year and really can only get lower from here, makes it totally worth it in 2018. And if you need a device for the basics or maybe a backup phone, the 5S is a good bet. It's also a great phone for people who just don't need to do a lot with their phone, maybe an elderly person or a kid. Just keep in mind battery life isn't amazing and try to get one that's still in good condition, and then you should be fine. In conclusion, as shocked as I am to say it, the iPhone 5S is actually at a really great value right now, and so picking one up is not a bad idea whatsoever. I know this video is actually pretty short compared to most of my reviews, but there isn't really a lot to say other than that the 5S isn't a terrible device, and with it getting iOS 12, it's actually become a pretty great option for a lot of people. I hope this was helpful to some of you, and if it was, or you just found the video interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Is the 5S definitely not worth buying? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, links below, and if you'd like to help and support the channel for free, you could always bookmark the Amazon referral link in the description. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.